Hello, everyone. Fantastic to be here. And thank you for attending the last session today. So today, together, we are going to explore live Kubernetes hacking. Get ready for a ride. But first, a brief introduction. I've been doing professional software development for over 20 years. Yep, sometimes I do feel like a dinosaur, but hey, who doesn't love classic? I've always been close to code, and that bond still thrives today. However, over 2 years ago, I joined the dark side of platform engineering at Form 3. And guess what? I absolutely loved it. Today, I'm a lead SRE engineer at Form 3. So what do we do at Form 3? Basically, Form 3 is a financial cloud. We provide a payment as a platform model for quick and easy integration with payment schemes via REST API. We are technology-oriented, fully remote, cloud-based with microservices architectures. We treat our infrastructure as code almost religiously, terraforming everything possible. Lately, we've been building a new multi-cloud payment platform based on Kubernetes and free clouds. So obviously, Kubernetes security is super important to us. What am I gonna talk about today? Just a splash of theory in the ocean of practice. The key part of today's talk includes 3 demos to hijack your account, exploiting various security issues in a Kubernetes application as well as a cluster. But before the fun begins, let's do a quick review of the Kubernetes architecture. So often as developers, we don't realize how complex the actual architecture of Kubernetes is. So what a complex engine we have underneath. There's 2 main concepts in Kubernetes: the control plane and worker nodes. The control plane basically manages the entire cluster. We have several components like scheduler, control manager, etcd, but the heart here is an API server. When we want to create or update a resource, we need to communicate with that server. It exposes a Kubernetes HTTP API, and that way we can interact with a cluster using tools like kubectl. And I'm pretty sure that all of you know what kubectl is. However, when it comes to our hacking demos today, the key part on the control plane is etcd, key value store. Basically, etcd stores the entire Kubernetes state of all resources. So we have all the information on the entire workload, all the manifests, their configurations, everything which runs in our cluster, we have stored in, this information is stored in etcd. Later on, we'll exploit etcd and get access to this information, but that's just a sneak peek. Let's take a look at worker nodes now. So basically, worker nodes are the place where the real work happens. The actual pods run over there. Kubelet is a main component responsible for instantiation and execution of pods. And also, when it comes to our hacking demos, it's useful to understand how networking works in Kubernetes. So basically, when it comes to networking, Kubernetes exposes this flat network security model. Flat security model means that each pod can communicate with any other pod without any restrictions by default. And this communication is made available because of CNI implementations. So Kubernetes uses CNI, container network interface, to create an overlay network that allows for pod-to-pod communication. CNI is only an interface, and we have different implementations like Calico, Cilium, or Flannel. Underneath those implementations usually create virtual network interfaces. And, oh, sorry, I have a problem with my low battery. Sorry for a moment, because I am connected. However, it seems like my charger doesn't work. So that's kind of strange. I need to fix that, because otherwise we won't have any demos at all. And it's not... Oh, that's really very strange, because it seems like my charger is not working. Apologies for this problem. I haven't noticed that before. And it seems all connected. Okay, I think I got it. And nope, I didn't. So when it comes to this flat network security model, usually those CNI create... Oops. Apologies, it never happened to me to have this problem with the charger, and it's still not working. It seems like I need to find another one. Perhaps this one will work better. No, unfortunately, the problem is bigger than I expected. And do you believe me that it just worked a moment ago? Okay, I do see that might be a problem in my USB-C cable. Let me find another one. Okay, we are good. Okay, so apologies for this problem. It doesn't happen often, but there must be always this first time when something breaks. So coming back to CNI and this and their implementations. So basically, this flat network security model, this flat networking model in Kubernetes usually is implemented using an overlay network. This overlay network is created by CNI implementations. We have different CNI implementations like Calico, Cilium, or Flannel. And usually those implementations underneath, they create virtual network interfaces. And they use like IP tables in case of Calico or Flannel, or eBPF injections to, in case of Cilium, to forward traffic to the right pod. So this is also important because for example, once we get access to a host on which a worker node is running, then we can see all those virtual interfaces and we can access them directly. So again, some sort of a sneak peek to our demos. We'll exploit this as well. When it comes to security issues, what kind of issues can we see in Kubernetes? Let's take a look at OWASP top 10 list. So I'm pretty sure that you are familiar with OWASP. OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. That's a non-for-profit organization that aims at increasing security awareness among developers. It all started with web application security. However, later on, OWASP expanded their field into other technologies as well. So only last year, for the very first time, they published this top 10 risk of top 10 list of security risks for Kubernetes. So let's take a look at chart toppers. And here let's focus on number one, which will be like a theme for today's presentation. So number one is about insecure workload configuration. So basically all those parameters that you can configure for a deployment or eventually pod, which extend their permissions, kind of permissions. We need to take a look at user, which is configured on a container. We need to take a look at privileged mode configuration. We need to take a look at file system configuration and that kind of issues. So those will be like the main and the most important issues we will explore today. However, also together with K1, we need to take a look at K4, lack of centralized policy enforcement. Because if you have an insecure workload configuration, usually you are lacking any kind of centralized policy enforcement. It's not enough to only detect those insecure configurations. We need actively reject those configurations. We shouldn't allow for those insecure pods to be deployed into our clusters. So those two are like the theme for today presentation, and we'll see that in just a couple of minutes. Another important resource when it comes to Kubernetes security is this MITRE attack threat matrix for Kubernetes. This one has been prepared by Microsoft. However, MITRE attack framework is like industry standard for modeling threats. And only for Kubernetes, this is like a new edition, which was actually for the first time published in 2020 and then updated in 2021. And here we see more detailed information about Kubernetes vulnerabilities, or those are categorized into initial access, and here we have a couple of ways like to how to gain an initial access to our Kubernetes clusters. Application vulnerabilities like remote code execution could be exploited. Exposed sensitive interfaces could be exploited. For example, Open Kubelet API. Once it's open, then anyone can access it and can mess up with our pods and anything scheduled on a given node. Here in today's talk, we'll exploit leftover kubeconfig files. Then we will need to exec into containers. We will need to get access to a control plane or get access to networking layer. So we have different attack vectors. So now it's time for our demos. It's gonna be like 101 course in Kubernetes hacking, but hopefully you will get a sense of the danger and see how a series of simple misconfigurations can lead to the compromise of the entire system. So I will need your help here. I have this vulnerable application prepared. The link's available in the slide. I will post it quickly in my Twitter account or ex-Twitter account as well. My kind ask to you, please register a new account, log in, and wait to be hacked. Remember, do not use any real data, just nicknames, no real passwords, no real names. My objective here is to hijack your accounts and learn your secrets. So let the fun begin. Let me first show you this vulnerable application. The link is jcon.yonlabs.com. I will post it in my Twitter account. Register and wait to be hacked. I will log in. You can see that there is like 2 accounts at the moment. There is my account and there is a victim account, just in case if anyone want to get registered. So you see that there is this secret. When we take a look at the details of this application, we can see that in the session storage, there is a token. This is a JWT token. So when we take a look at this JWT token, we can take a look at jwt.io. and see the details of this token. So we see that this token uses HA256 algorithm, which stands for HMAC256. This algorithm is a symmetric algorithm. So, for example, once we know the secret, we can create new tokens and we can impersonate any user we want. Also, another attack on JWT-based application is to just capture any valid token and then we can freely use it. So those are the attack vectors on these web applications. Let me refresh the page and see if there is any more accounts registered. Please, if you have some time and if you want to actively join this session, please register a new account. However, I can basically hack the victim account as well. So let's the hacking begin. I will do all the hacking from my evil server. So this evil server is like our first step inside our target system. So here we have access to a kubeconfig file. Let's assume that this is like a leaked config file, or we've taken over developer machine. This developer is let's try to get notes. We see that this developer, the user we have kubeconfig for is John Doe. The user doesn't have access to get nodes, for example, so they have limited permissions. So in such a case, it should be pretty difficult to do much. Let's take a look what this user can do actually. So let's use keine command and list the privileges. Basically, this user is not able to create to do anything in our default namespace. However, when we take a look at full app namespace, so here we see that this user is kind of an administrator for this full app namespace. So they are capable to do anything when it comes to deployments, pods, and they can exec into pods. That's very handy because basically we can spin up a new pod. I have a manifest prepared. So let's see this everything allowed manifest. This manifest basically deploys a new pod with all privileges, whatever you imagine. So by default, there is a root user. We have host network as true, so we can access the network of the underlying host. We have host PID as true. We have host IPC as true. The pod will be deployed in a privileged mode. Also, another important we have this host path available. So basically we have access to the underlying file system, to the file system of the underlying host. And also we are trying to schedule this pod on the control plane. How do we know that this is a control plane? Because basically if we take a look at config file for our kubectl configuration, so basically it connects to this control plane, and based on the host name, we can assume that we are in AWS, and this is like convention, naming convention for AWS nodes. So our pod will be scheduled on the control plane if possible, because it depends whether we are dealing with like managed Kubernetes, then the control plane won't be available to us, or perhaps we are dealing with custom installation, and then most likely control plane will be accessible to us. So let's give it a try. Let's start it kubectl apply, and let's apply this manifest. So our pod is created. Let's see if it's running. That should be this full app namespace. Yes, it's running. So now it's time to exec into this pod. We need to provide namespace as well, and we want to access bash. Okay, we are in. What can we do now? Basically now we can do some sort of reconnaissance. We see that we have this host available. So under host, we have the file system of the underlying host mounted. So we could search for some tokens, for some access keys, and that kind of stuff. So let's give it a try and see if we can find any like kubeconfig which could have a user with more privileges than we have access to so far. So just for privileged escalation. Unfortunately, to do find, basically to with this configuration, we could easily take over the entire host. The only missing part to have an easy access and root on the host is like doing change root. So let's do it. And then we could now we need to look in host. We haven't found any kubeconfig, but let's look for kube. We do have a kube folder, which suggests that we do have some configuration here. Yes, we do. Let's see what's here in this config file. And here we have Kubernetes admin. So basically, now we can use this config file that was home ubuntu.kubeconfig. So we can use this kubeconfig file to get access to anything we want in the cluster. So let's see the nodes. Let's see pods in all namespaces. We do have those demo application running in our Kubernetes cluster. We have demo web and demo server application. So let's give it a try and let's see the manifests for this demo server. We need to provide a namespace as well. We want more information. And when we take a look at this manifest, we see, for example, that the JWT secret key is taken from basically Kubernetes secret. So let's take a look at secrets here. We do have this demo secret available. So let's see the details. So basically, we have access to this JWT secret key. Most likely, that's the key used to generate and verify our JWT tokens. That's the name suggests. So let's give it a try. And thank you for registering. So I have more accounts to be hacked. So basically, I will use this secret here. It's important to highlight that those Kubernetes secrets, they are not encrypted. They are only encoded. They are base 64 encoded. And here, to create a new account, a new token, I basically need to adjust those claims. Subject usually is like a key claim here representing a user. So let's use this subject form. We do have a new token. So now it's enough to just replace my valid token with this newly generated one. And JCon victim, you've been hacked. Thank you for your cooperation. So that was one way to access this secret. Another way would be instead of let's imagine that we haven't found any Kubernetes credentials. So we are on the control plane node, but we don't have access to via kubectl to API server. We are not able to do anything more than our John Doe user. So once we are on the control plane, then we can see all the processes running here, and we want to see etcd. Etcd, as I mentioned before, is this key value store which stores all the information about all Kubernetes resources. So with etcd running here, we are interested in this data dir folder. Data dir folder basically means that all Kubernetes, all etcd state is stored under this folder. So let's go there And let's see what we can do here. We can do at snaps, and we can see the entire DB. Let's take a look for, let's look for registry secrets. We see this demo secret available, and we could get access to this data just by searching this one. And here you see the plain data, the raw data of our demo secret, and you see exactly the same value I got access to via kubectl CLI. So we can give it a try and actually verify if this is exactly the same token. And I've just generated a new token for user 5, and let's try to hack it. Again, replacing, and now it's there is no user with claim 5. Let's try this one, perhaps. So let's, okay, Shimon, you've been hacked. So thank you for your cooperation. You've seen a couple of demos here, 2 demos with pod privilege escalation. If you want to learn more about Kubernetes pod privilege escalation, I highly recommend this blog post by Seth Art about bad pods. He has like many more options and more detailed discussion on how to use privilege escalation with misconfigured pods. So that's gonna be super useful. When it comes to our first demo, we've seen that we had this Insecure Workload Configuration, #1 from OWASP top 10 list of Kubernetes security risks. There was a root user, privilege mode, host PID, host path, host network, and host IPC configure. Moreover, there was no centralized policy enforcement, so we were able to create insecure workload. Another issue we could observe is secrets management failure. Our demo secret was not encrypted, and it's not encrypted by default in Kubernetes. Kubernetes secrets are only encoded. So if we want any more extra security configurations, we need to take care of it ourselves. When it comes to lack of centralized policy enforcement, we can use like pod security, or we could use OPA rules, Kyverno policies on any other sort of admission controller usually, which basically verifies the pods being admitted, and if they don't conform to the set of rules configured, basically the workload is rejected. So that's very handy, and that could protect our Kubernetes cluster. Our second demo, so basically our second demo was, we had like 2 variants of the first demo. So let's move to our second demo. Our second demo, so let me move back to my evil server. I will switch to user Jane. Oh, I'm not there yet. Okay, let me switch to user Jane. User Jane, that's Jane Doe. again, they have like limited set of privileges, and she has access only to bar namespace, bar app namespace. Okay, this one. And unfortunately, she's able only to manipulate deployments. So she doesn't have access to pods, and particularly, she is not able to exec into a pod. So that's a problem, right? However, we can work around here. So instead of directly executing into a pod with bash access, we could run a reverse shell. So basically, instead of a client machine connecting to a pod, this is gonna be like a pod connecting to our client machine. So here I have again this manifest prepared. This one, this manifest basically doesn't have such wide privileges as the previous one. We have only host paid and available, and the pod is running in privileged mode. So that's not as many privileges as we had before. And also this pod uses like root user, that's by default. So here you see that we are using ncat to create a reverse pod. So the command this pod is about to run is like connecting to our client machine, that's our IP, our evil server IP, and exposing bash. So basically to make use of this one, we need another session, and we need to run ncat on our evil machine. We are listening on port 4444. Now we are ready to apply this manifest, and we should get a connection from inside the pod. So you can see that indeed we received this connection from inside the pod. So we are inside the pod, and then the drill is very similar. So here I would do some sniffing. However, I know that this is like privileged mode, so I could easily take over the entire host. So take a look that at the moment, if we run uname -a, we are on the pod. So, but we have access to all the processes, so we could do ns enter with target for the process number 1, that's an init, and with all privileges and bash. So now if we run uname -a, we see that we are on the host. So basically we've taken over the entire host. Once we've taken this over, we could do whatever we want, but we are interested in this web application and trying to sniff around. So here, let's make use of those virtual network interfaces. So basically, let's try to run TCP. First of all, we could run if config just for you to see those virtual network interfaces. Those virtual network interfaces are created by the CNI installed in this Kubernetes cluster. And we want to sniff traffic here. So let's sniff traffic on any interface on port 9090. Some insider knowledge I have, and now my kind request to you. Could you please refresh your pages? I would like to see some traffic coming in. Oh, thank you very much. And let me look for bearer. And here you see the token, right? So once we get our hands on the token, then we could replace this token with new one, and that was again Shimon. Let me try and to find another one. I do have new token. Now I'm logged in as Patrycja. Let me refresh it. And Shimon, you've been the most active user. Thank you for your cooperation. So just a short summary because we are running out of time. So you've seen that with Insecure Workload Configuration and only root, privilege mode, and host speed, we could take over the entire host. Again, we were lacking like centralized policy enforcement, and also one important issue about networking, the traffic inside the cluster was not encrypted. So even though when you take a look at the web application, it uses HTTPS, but it only goes to the load balancer, and inside the cluster, the entire traffic for our demo application is unencrypted. So you can see that basically, when it comes to Kubernetes security, that's the tip of the iceberg. I could go on and on about many security issues in Kubernetes. However, we are running out of time, so just final remarks. Important thing, we could do different type of privilege escalation based on different configuration of our pods, from everything allowed to nothing allowed. So you need to take care of your deployment pods configuration to avoid any insecure configuration. You should take into account and think about deploying some sort of centralized policy enforcement mechanism to reject any insecure workload. And even though if everything's in place, your pods are secure, still there are ways to exploit the clusters via exposed APIs, via insecure applications. So the topic of Kubernetes security is very wide. What's important to remember is the Swiss cheese security model. It highlights how important is layered security, like stacking slices of Swiss cheese. Each layer addresses different risks. That way we cover the holes or weaknesses in other layers. The goal is not perfect security. That's impossible. We want a robust defense that makes it challenging for bad guys to succeed and gives us, good guys, more time to detect and respond to potential threats. Remember, a fool with a tool is only a fool. We need to know how to use our tools wisely. And the most important paradigm in software development is continuous learning. We must keep educating ourselves, and that's what conferences are for. So thank you. Special thanks for such an effective cooperation in my demos. I wouldn't do that without you.